Welcome back to The Dive. I'm Zach Neff. I'm here with Luca, and we have our first guest, Colton Welker. So in this episode, we're going to go through Colton's journey to the big leagues, after the big leagues, and kind of where he's at right now. He really opens up to us and expresses a lot of really neat things that have guided him on his journey through resilience, openness, and a couple tragic events in his life. So please join us for episode 5 with Colton Welker, and it will be brought to you by Wild Pitch Hot Sauce. Sup, fellas? Zach Neff here with Luca, and we have our first guest, and this is Colton Welker. How you guys doing?
What's up, Neffy? Doing great, man.
Doing
Thanks
good.
for having me.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this one for a bit. I know we set this up kind of a while ago, so Colt, let's since you are a guest, let's jump into you a little bit. You were a high draft pick in 2016 out of Coral Springs, Florida, I believe. So
There you go.
take us through your path. Thanks. Take us through your path a little bit from high school draft and being a high schooler, because Luke and I don't share that journey. So going into pro ball as a high schooler and kind of what happened to you going forward and getting into that big leagues and getting into those big league steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting drafted out of high school for me was just a whirlwind. It was, I was kind of one of those guys that, I would say I was kind of like a little bit of a late group, groomer away. Like I wasn't always gonna be a draft guy and kind of maybe scout's eyes. In my mind, I was like, I'm a scrappy hitter. I can do this and that. And then I kind of started getting a little stronger. Started seeing people in the stands that weren't my friends' parents, and I was like, oh wow, maybe they're here for me. And happened to be that they were, which is pretty cool. And that's honestly how kind of dumbed down the process started for me around like 11th grade. And then in a year, that turns into a whole different ordeal after, putting up some numbers, gaining a little confidence, a lot more people in the stands. And now I'm talking to them, this and that. And one thing I was proud of myself about the whole thing was I always stayed true to myself. I never switched on my buddies in the classroom. I never acted like a hotshot. And, I was just a kid playing ball. And I always wanted to stick like that. I was maybe kind of a funnier kid, kept it light even in the big moments, and that was how I performed. I was always just kind of funny throughout the whole thing, even in the most crazy environments. It was all just kind of fun, and I kept it like that. I played well. Ended up signing with Colorado. Had a 200 person draft party at my house because I had a deal set to go the first day, and then ended up not going in the first day. So that's kind of how I rubbed off on that right away. And then I woke up to my mom knocking on my door saying, oh, the Rockies want to pay you this and give you this. And I was just like, that's way under what I sold myself for. But you know what? Like, I just want to go hit and play ball. So I went and did that. That was, whirlwind of emotions. And I remember I actually got sent my rookie ball team. I was me and another high school guy, and the rest were all big dog SEC, LSU's, Ole Miss, just overwhelmingly more physical than me and just stronger than me. And just that was my first taste of like, oh wow, I'm not the guy. These guys are all guys too. So this is going to be cool, So I'm going to see what I'm really made of. And the first week was super overwhelming. Just every starter's casually sitting in the mid 90s now, and that's like our state final game that we're talking about for 5 years. But this is Monday through Sunday, and had to figure it out pretty quick. And I could see there was kind of two directions that you could go as a younger kid. You can kind of let those emotions swallow you and kind of lose your game and your mindset. And I was just like, I'm just going to be myself. Like, hopefully these guys like me. I'm just going to be funny. I'm going to be a team guy. These guys are way older than me. And dude, I ended up making like some of my best buddies that I still talk to this day through that experience and just being myself. And that was kind of the best thing I ever did, and I kind of used that confidence and comfort and performed. I did well out of the gates, and in the beginning, I didn't even really believe in myself in certain moments of that, grabbing a wood bat for the first time, facing guys with real stuff. I mean, it can be very overwhelming, as we all know, and it took some getting used to, and definitely gaining that kind of brotherhood in the beginning is so important, and that's kind of like what I felt like me and you had this year, Neff, together. It was like a very similar thing, and just you can definitely outperform maybe quote unquote your expectations through I genuinely believe just being comfortable and like being able to be yourself, which a lot of the guys struggled with, and I got to see that at a young age. So like from there, I just kind of working my way up. I took pride in that. I really made friends in every team. I had my guys. I'd somewhat go ask the hitting coach what's going on, but I've had the same swing since I was 7 years old. So most of it's just mental. So I would just go up to my buddy that I had. I picked 3 or 4 guys on every team and go from there. And I kind of just rode that ladder all the way up. I had pretty solid numbers all the way through. A lot of whirlwind of emotions in between each year and things that I thought should have happened, this and that, and ultimately ended up getting to the big leagues in 2021 after probably one of like the hardest experiences of my life. Getting hit with a bunch of different things, and it's just from there. It's just been, like I said, an up and down journey. And that's kind of what baseball is, and I've learned to kind of cope with every year. I treat every year very differently. I don't try to roll one year into the next, because you can really transform yourself in 1 year in this game, which is pretty cool, whereas maybe other sports you can't. Baseball, you do have a shot every year to do that, so I find it pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of crossed paths there in 2019 for the first time in the fall league, and then we played together last year. What, it was that 2024? And yeah. I don't want to say we changed as like our personalities or human beings, but like we definitely had different approaches to day-to-day life. Like we definitely had evolved
Absolutely.
from who we were in 2019 and 2024. And something that like caught my ear when you were talking was like that comfortableness feeling, that being yourself feeling. And we won the championship there in 2019, and then this past year we won that championship in 2024. And it's something Luke and I have talked about on this podcast too, is like what creates that dynamic in the clubhouse or in the culture from your perspective that allows for that to grow. Because in this last episode I talked about your poem that you posted on the wall after like those bus rides that we had and conversations we had. Yeah, after those conversations we had. So I didn't remember the poem off verbatim, but I remember you posting it, and it just kind of like it was that free, easy moment. And so I'm gonna give you back the mic.
Yeah, for sure. Because as a player, you're all going through that jungle, that journey together. Last year, what I thought was cool was, what was cool about indie ball specifically for me, not to jump subjects, was just like everyone's in a similar position. No one's where they ultimately want to be, and everyone's working every day to get. It's the same thing as affiliate, but you're way more grateful for the experience in indie ball because, every single day could be your last. It's your last day doing what you love as a kid. It's your last day putting the glove down or the bat down. Dude, most of us have put more time into this than anything in our life. So it's like, that's a really tough thing to cope with. So I just feel like that brotherhood, I think that's how it started for us last year, was just kind of like through the struggle of maybe just life in general right now and moments, it's, we're obviously blessed to continue to do that, but a lot of us maybe didn't picture ourselves here maybe a couple years ago. And to kind of use that as almost like, hey, instead of complaining about our spread post game in indie ball, which is really tough, we can maybe use this as, like I said, like a light moment. Like, dude, look at this spread. Like, this is hilarious. Like, let's just use this as like fuel to almost. We're all eating the same spread, So it's like if one of us complains and 3 of us are laughing, like let's just all laugh, type of thing. And that's what I think started to bring us together. Was just like after the game, like connecting, laughing about some of the calls at the games that maybe that was my first time seeing calls like that. And it was just kind of entertaining in a way. Like it almost felt like I was a kid again, and where maybe I lost myself getting to the higher levels in terms of being myself, because the higher up you get in baseball, it's kind of like unspoken and whatever. It's just, I feel like everyone and everything is taking you away from like your ultimate why you're there. And it's a weird kind of thing to cope with, because it's tough, man. It's like, I got here doing one thing. I think I'm good enough because they called me up, and then when I'm here, they want a whole different product, which and I'm trying to do this at the highest level. Whereas like last year, just felt like I didn't really have people in my ear, drifting me. It was almost like just you go out there and be you and have fun, and I did, and I feel like that rubbed off on people, and I obviously made a lot of really awesome friends. We had some amazing conversations. So to answer your question, it was more just. I want to say the situation and people just buying into the situation and saying like, instead of like getting away from everything, complaining, which is so easy to do, it's like we're just gonna embrace this head on and just have a blast and pick each other up and talk about life and and things we believe in and what's got us here and what we can change to get out of here and things like that. So it was just pretty special.
Cool. I want to pick your brain on what you were just saying. So basically, I never experienced the transition from AA to AAA, and obviously from the AAA to big leagues. But that transition that you're basically saying, like, people kind of want to pull you in different directions, this and that.
Yeah.
When you went from different teams, especially let's say from the Isotopes to the Rockies, right? You went from the AAA to big leagues.
Yep.
Obviously, at every level, you're experiencing a whole different team. Obviously, you're gonna know a good amount of them from spring training, being around each other, so and so. But for the most part, especially when you're first time through the system, you're getting a whole different group of guys. But obviously, a different coaching staff as well.
Absolutely.
When you get to the big leagues, that's obviously probably just emphasized tenfold. How does it? And you were saying before, also, you stick to yourself. You done your same swings as your 7. How did you find it, or at least how did you do it? Let's say just staying true to yourself, and when there's so much change, so much going on, where and of course at every level you're going to experience a little failure at the beginning as well. Rarely are people going to get moved up and moved up to a different level and just start succeeding from the beginning.
Absolutely.
So how do you balance all that out, where you're dealing with a little bit of failure, dealing with a new group of guys, dealing with a new coaching staff, but then at the same time it's like to get through this, it's like you need to be yourself, and
Absolutely.
you need to stick to what you got there to get you there. But a lot of times everyone else doesn't really see it that way. Everyone else is like quick to want to change something. And we
Absolutely.
had a little conversation on our last podcast just simply about this. How did you deal with that, that discipline in terms of, I'm not going to change this. Like, I got here doing this. Like, I don't care what you say, even though you're the big league skip.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm new to the club, whatever. But how did you manage those emotions of just sticking to you?
Yeah, no, it's definitely like an internal confidence. It's like if people can say it's cocky, people can call it whatever they want, but if you don't have that belief, that's where you're gonna switch. If you don't believe deep down in your bones, hey, I'm facing Kershaw tonight, he has a good breaking ball, but I'm a freaking great hitter. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen breaking balls, maybe not as good as this, but I'm a great hitter. And he's a great pitcher and I'm a great hitter, and we're just going to go compete tonight. He might get me once, but I promise you I'm going to get mine every single night. And that's been my thing. And when people maybe have that initial failure of oh, Kershaw got me 4 times tonight. Well, he's gotten Hall of Famers hundreds of times. So it's almost like people wanna switch right away because it's oh, it didn't work tonight. And I can go out, I can feel great, my swing can feel great. If my mind is foggy, I'm never going to have a chance at that level. If your mind is foggy, if you can't think in front of 5,000 people, you are not going to be able to breathe in front of 50,000 people. And it just gets intensified and intensified. And I started practicing it in the minor leagues. We'd get a big 4th of July crowd, and it's 15, 20,000 in AAA. And it's oh, I got some jitters tonight again, man. This feels good, And it's you see some kids, they're not the same. They're not talking all day. They're this and that. I was I'm going to go above and beyond to make sure that these guys just feel even more comfortable, because today's 15,000. And I almost use that as a tool. I almost embraced it when I'm on defense. Give me the most crazy play in front of 15,000. Let's see what I'm made of, type of thing, instead of almost running the other way. Because I'm going to have to, inevitably, if I'm doing this every day and I want to be a big leaguer, it's going to face me. And I want to be ready for when I have to face that dragon. Absolutely. And so, yeah, just kind of working on the moment, not ever letting it get too big. I mean, it's so easy, man. You're in the field and you're looking up at 3 decks and there's this and that in the stands. I mean, it's freaking overwhelming, man. It's crazy. It's really hard to focus. So I started doing that at smaller scales and really buying into my internal belief, and I think that definitely ultimately helped me when I ended up getting there. And also having, like I said, about those few guys in every team, even when I got to the big leagues, because of the relationships I built in the minor leagues, I had those guys for my debut. I wore Brendan Rodgers cleats during my debut. I didn't even have cleats. He gave me a custom pair of purple, whatever, and that's what I rocked out there with, and I didn't care. And most people were laughing it's your freaking debut and this guy doesn't even have cleats. So it was I had my buddy just to toss me a crispy pair of Nikes, and we're out there ready to roll, So that was more or less that was the comfort I had there. I wasn't nervous to ask him, but that's all because of prior relationships, and it did make it feel a little bit more at home than it would have felt, but also that's laying the seed years and years in the past and kind of letting that mature and gaining, they also gain a level of respect for you guys that have been up there, even if it was the minor leagues, even if they always remember you, man, those guys. So and they know what it feels like because they've done it. So it's, it's cool to have it's cool to have people like that in your corner.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
let's I mean your story's amazing, and I've always enjoyed conversing with you, but like the talks that we would have in the dugout were next level as far as thinking about approach, thinking about attitude, or just like swing decisions and stuff. And I thought
Absolutely.
before you got hurt, you were having a phenomenal year. You were a game changer in our lineup in York, and you took our lineup to the next level. And then like you got hurt and you stuck around, which is kudos to you, and we greatly appreciated it. But like those months coaching, I'm gonna call them coaching months when you weren't playing, might have been some of your best work, to be honest.
Before you keep going, can we what happened?
Yeah, so I played.
I saw you play. I
yeah.
saw you guys play. What, like, was it June, Jack or Zach?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting hurt. I don't know. It was it was in the second half, but I ended up. I got there a little late because I was kind of iffy with my decision to keep playing or not, which is crazy enough, but that's sometimes where this road can lead you. And I ended up showing up late, and I kind of meshed with the guys right away pretty well, and then I actually took a swing. It's pretty terrible, but I took a swing and my back leg stayed in the ground, and my knee just kind of did like a 360. I felt the pop. I went to the ground. I was like, is this the last time I'm ever going to hit? This is crazy, and I didn't really know how to react, and it ended up being like a grade 2 MCL, which was pretty much going to put me out to like the very end where I couldn't really walk and this and that. It's fine now, which is a blessing, but that was kind of how it went. It was very abrupt. It was very just not what I was expecting. It's just like kind of another moment with baseball. It's baseball though, man. You never know what every day is going to bring, and it can, it impacts your weeks and months and years in the future. So it's just one of those things mentally you got to cope with. But
so you weren't on the field during the playoffs at all at any point?
No, I wasn't. Okay. I stayed for the last what was that? Probably like 2 months. I was there.
Yeah, I mean, you left like 2 weeks before playoffs.
Yeah.
But I mean, you spent I don't know 2 months on the shelf just honestly being a coach, or being there for the fellas, like really.
Yeah, absolutely. That was it was special to me, man. It was just like one of those things where it was like I felt, obligated in a way. I mean, Rick, our manager, just kind of welcomed me with arms wide open, even after kind of taking that delay. And I felt like that was my obligation to the guys. I got so close to everybody, and I mean, as well as playing, like I really genuinely enjoy like helping people, like from like the start of it. Like if I see a guy struggling, like I would love to go help that guy and just be like pick his brain about what he's kind of seeing and what he's feeling, because like everyone, it's a tricky thing, because like what you're feeling is not always what it looks like sometimes as a hitter, as a pitcher, and sometimes you kind of need other eyes on you, not even a coach, because a lot of the times that's kind of a different thing as well. But I just like felt that was my obligation. I enjoyed every day. I mean, dude, we were in a tough area, man. It was tough sledding. It wasn't an awesome location. I mean, I live in South Florida. Anyone might have just packed it up and whatever, but I was like, you know what, man, this is like, I think this is where I'm supposed to be right now, man. This is just like, this is my calling right now, and I'm gonna help these guys, and it was so rewarding helping a guy in the cage. I mean, I'm not even playing, but I'm just down there talking, and then going to the game and seeing it kind of come to fruition, and see a guy make an adjustment or think about the pitch. Maybe I might have told him what I thought was coming, and he actually bought into that and trusted me and like executed it. It was pretty cool, and that was something where like, even moving past baseball and things, it's kind of changed my thought of like maybe like who I am as a person, and like maybe what really is my calling, maybe to teach people in a way. So that was just something cool that I learned about myself that I really was not expecting to learn.
Mm-hmm. Zach, I'm sorry I cut you off before. I want to continue on with this, what he was just saying.
No, it's cool. So like after that injury, Colt, like you made the team better, and you weren't even playing. Like honestly, you were you were the best player there, but it just was like you continued to make the people around you better, where like a lot of people that I know could have turned bitter or could have turned sour and just packed up their shit and left, which is, I mean, that's fine. That it's indie ball, like nobody's obligated to stay or what, but like I honestly, like, that's when I don't want to say that's when our conversation started to fold, but like we started to dive deeper in the dugouts. We started to dive deeper post games and stuff like that. And I almost got to know you better in a sense as far as like who you were as a person, and it helped me too because I was out there playing and I could come in and be like, I'm gonna get an honest response from Welk here, and like obviously
Yeah,
our history
absolutely.
goes back, but kind of take me post surgery or not post surgery, post injury
Uh-huh.
into that growth mindset of continuing to help and continuing to be there for guys, or what your thoughts are there.
I
Yeah, I
want to
mean, it
piggyback
was
that
just,
question too, real quick.
yeah,
It goes off the same question, and I want to ask the same thing twice. Also, it's like the mindset you had prior to indie ball with your agent when you guys were figuring decisions out for like how you can pursue your career, and then indie ball seemed like it was the next step. Obviously, we talked about it prior to get on the call. It's like big leagues, and then you're up and down from AAA big leagues, and then all
absolutely.
of a sudden rug
Yeah.
gets taken from under you, and now you're find yourself in indie ball. Take me from that transition to like kind of swallowing your pride a little bit, doing that, going to indie ball, and then all it seems like your experience is incredible. And then now you're just like, not only do I'm not like, all right, I have to go to continue my career. This is just a
Yeah.
step in the journey. But it's like now there is no next step because I'm hurt, but I still
Yeah.
want to be here to help.
Yeah,
So tell me, like,
absolutely.
it kind of goes off the same mindset questions I was asking, but also it's like, with that in mind, it's like, what changed from like that beginning to like you wanting to stay and help these guys,
Yeah, this is gonna get kind of deep, but
Please.
yeah, I was so lost, man. I mean, going into that off season, I have the track record, I have the numbers. My people kind of knew my name. I mean, I was doing things that I put myself on a radar where I was like, you know what, I got it for the show. I got hurt. I had a labrum shoulder surgery, and I've been a year out, and I'm thinking somebody's still gonna bite here on this hook. I mean, I'm a year removed, and the game has evolved a lot. I'm hearing all these things from my agent. It's looking a little cloudy, and I'm thinking this guy's crazy, man. I think I'm a surefire lock to get signed. I mean, when I tell you, I'm walking around like it's freaking January. I'm not even nervous. I'm sitting here like, someone's calling me, man. I can swing it. I can hit the ball. I can do this. Like that's how much belief I have. Like I'm not even really worried that no one's gonna call me. And then like, February crept in, man. It's like, wow, my agent wasn't lying. These guys don't really like me anymore. They don't think I can hit. Like this is crazy. I mean, this is like eye opening. I'm like, wow. Like and I started getting, in the beginning it was more like surreal. Like I was just like, I started thinking about my life, my journey, where I was literally 2 years. I'm looking at Snapchat, reminders. 2 years ago, I'm sitting in a big league clubhouse, and now I'm on my couch eating Funyuns, and I'm just like, where did this go? Like what just transpired for me to have this bag of Funyuns on my couch, and it was just like. I should be, sitting on a 3-2 slider against Walker Buehler right now, but I'm eating Funyuns. And how did this happen? So I started to kind of like break it down, like, and there was other, outside factors about, just who I was as a person, maybe having a little too much fun here and there, thinking I could get away with a little too much in life. And it comes back and bites you, man. And it humbled me a lot. And I was always a kind of work hard, play hard type of guy as a human. I was always, been like that forever. And just not getting that call kind of swung my world in a way where, it was just a serious reality check. And, in the beginning it was a little bit of, down and maybe, depressed in a way of not getting a call. And then I started to kind of like ask for help. And I wasn't, I consider myself religious, but I wasn't really that guy that I wasn't, bringing it up on a daily basis. But I'm like, my life got so overwhelming. I'm like, I need help, man. I need to ask for something or a sign or just give me which way you want me to go, and I'm just going to go, and I'm not going to like look back. So then like during this process, I'm waking up every other day. One day I'm packing my bats up to drive to York. The next day I'm like calling a guy to go sell a used car or something. I'm just all over the place, man. I'm like half in, half out, this and that. And then, dude, it was the craziest thing. I woke up one morning. The season had already started. These guys were like 10 games in. I woke up one morning, not planning on doing this, at like 6:30, and I was like, I'm getting in my car and I'm leaving. And my mom was just like, what? She's like, you're not really that packed. And I was just like, no, I'm just going to get in my car and drive 15 hours. I'm going to meet the team. And I randomly texted Rick at like 12 at night the night before. He answered me right away, which to me in itself was kind of like a sign, like who's up at just midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning and answers a guy that's not even on their team, a second later about where they are and this and that. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is where I'm really supposed to be, you know? And I started to really get like momentum, just like that kind of feeling in my body, like I'm just excited again, you know? It's just a weird, I needed it. It was a feeling that I needed. Some of us, sometimes we all need just a little pep in our step just to get moving. And I ended up getting in my car that morning. I drove 15 hours. I met the team in, I think it was South Carolina or North Carolina, one of the two. And
High Point.
High Point. There you go. Yeah, I just met the team there. I didn't know anyone. I'm telling you, the ride was 15 hours. It maybe felt like a 3-hour ride, 2.5, 3 hours. I mean, I didn't even know. I couldn't even feel myself. It was just like the weirdest thing of emotions. It was so neat. I was just like, wow, I'm going to do something I don't want to do, and I'm just not letting myself not do it. And it was just, it was the best thing I've ever done. Just even for like my mental clarity and just myself right now, man. I mean, like just being able to go do that and just swallow my ego and my pride of expecting all this and like, you know what, I maybe burnt myself down a little bit, but I'm going to use this year at Indy Ball to kind of build myself up, whether that's mentally, physically, if I can even help someone out and maybe just open up another can of worms off the field or just anything. You know, I wasn't really going in, I wasn't really going there trying to sign. Like I wanted to sign and I knew I was going to do my thing, but I just wanted to go kind of like, I don't know if you guys have watched Aaron Rodgers' thing about like after his Achilles on Netflix, but like I just watched that and I resonated with him so much. Like he just wanted to prove to himself that he could still do it in a weird way. And that's, I felt that hardcore. I wanted to do it for me and my mom, obviously, and the people I love, but it was just like a weird internal thing of like, my life was just going such a different direction. I just really want to stop this and get back on the track of playing every day and just seeing what I can do. And I mean, just swallowing my ego was the best thing ever, man. It was just like getting over there, getting with the guys, being part of a team again. I mean, from there, it just developed into just like more than life for me, Neff. I mean, I know you can relate, but like some of the talks we had and just that was just amazing.
Well, I want to give you a little bit of praise here and like your ability to bring people together. Like I know I'm going to put air quotes on this one again, but your big league dinners, like when we're at the hotel and we just go to Outback and we sit there for, I don't know. I mean, we lose track of time really. And then all of a sudden it grows from a table of 6 to a table of 8. And now we got 10 guys there. And I think it speaks volume to the people that we had there. And especially like, I mean, you were the guy that started a lot of those things. So like, it was just a neat experience as far as that goes, as like the camaraderie, the culture in the clubhouse. Like we just everybody let their ego go and we just played and whatnot. And so, and another thing I really resonate with was that
Absolutely.
I had too much fun. Like when we first met or when we first crossed paths there in Scottsdale, like that was my whole philosophy. Like yeah. The whole goal was just simply to have fun and like,
absolutely.
We connected, but we didn't really have conversations like these. And granted, I was in the bullpen for a majority of the games, and you were playing. But I mean, we crossed paths at the nightclubs and drinking and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think for me personally, I left so much on the table there. You know, instead of putting in the work, and it's not that I forgot to do the work, but doing your work hungover versus doing your work sober, those are two different obstacles, right? Like,
absolutely.
So, like growing there and like going to Indy Ball, like after getting released from Tommy John, like I relate heavy to that because it's like, man, I feel that that is exactly what I was going through, and then growing and like just being there and letting it all go and letting it come to fruition. And I didn't have the best year, but I might have had the best time. Like, and and we didn't party. Like it was just go ahead.
It's special. Yeah. No. I'm just saying, because like for me, I didn't know what fun was unless it was going 2 for 4 and then hitting Applebee's after for a cold one or whatever. That was just you know I didn't know how to. And then just like getting back to just being like almost just so high on life and grateful that like I'm just playing ball, and whether I went 0 for 4 or 4 for 4, like our talks after the game and this and that were just like, that's what I was looking forward to, is getting back in the clubhouse and just either laughing about what just happened or just being like, bro, this is fun again, you know, type of thing. And that was just like super special. Like it was just it was the first time in my life I've genuinely been like so excited to show up to the field. Like more excited than even when I was in the big leagues. And I know that sounds freaking crazy, but it was just like the God's honest truth. And it was just, I don't know, there's just like a really cool aura about it.
Well, it was like easy. Go ahead, Luca.
So I just want to pick your brain. I'm not sure if you've given this thought, so if you don't have to go too deep on just off a whim, but what I'm hearing a lot of is like, Colton with an ego versus Colton without the ego.
For sure.
And it seems like Colton without the ego is much better person in general, but especially like more so for yourself. Like you just seem like you didn't get in your own way as much.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So I don't want to preface this. Like when you learned this about, like, say, just getting out of your own way and just getting rid of your ego, how hard of a transition was that where you really learned that? Was that simply just getting in the car and driving there? Was that you getting over the ego, or was there things that, like, you just kind of came to terms with while you're there?
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow. And then
there was a lot. I mean, for me, just on a physical end, there was so much more to it because, I mean, the last time Neff saw me, I was in, really good physical shape in the fall league, and then during these trials and tribulations, surgeries, kind of funks that I was in. I mean, my thing was like I was just eating. I was just eating. I gained a lot of weight just to kind of cope with maybe just how things were going, and that was kind of what made me feel good at the time. And dude, when I got to indie ball, dude, I was 40 pounds overweight. So for me, it's like I'm still Colton Welker. I can barrel a ball, but my swing doesn't feel the same. I mean, I'm flat out fat right now, and it's like that was so humbling. Like that was another thing where it's like I don't feel good in a jersey, and like that's a really tough, different feeling that I never really had before. Because again, this is my first time playing in a couple of years, so I mean I'm throwing on my old baseball pants from the Rockies, and I can't even zip up the thing halfway and close them, and I'm sitting there like, dude, this is freaking crazy. I mean, I'm really against the 8-ball right here, so. That was super humbling, and that was something where it was almost like that was a part of it where in the beginning it was very defeating, but like I looked at it more of a journey. Like this is where I'm gonna fix myself. This is where I'm gonna use this time to start eating right, to start working my ass off, to actually get back into feeling. And dude, I just prayed and believed, and I stuck with my eating. And I mean, I probably lost 30 pounds, not even really trying to, just playing and just kind of being around the guys and having Neffer make me do extra sprints before the games and just silly fun stuff that we do. And it was just like, dude, I'm going back to the hotel and I can, wear my old clothes. I'm swinging and I can fully swing again. It was just like, these are things that like a year ago, I'm just sitting here not even thinking about, but like just to be able to do that again was just such like, it was just like an overwhelmingly amazing feeling of just like seeing my weight kind of lose, seeing my swing come back and evolve. It was just everything I could ask for. And in the beginning, it took a little bit of time to lose my ego, and I had to lose my ego. I'm in indie ball. In the beginning, I wasn't even doing well in indie ball. So, like, what am I going to keep talking about 3-4 years ago? And no one likes a has-been. I never want to be that guy. I never want to be a guy that doesn't close the yearbook and just talks about my one little cup of coffee. Like, no, I want to go drink a whole freaking pitcher. Like, I don't want to be that guy, Like, I kind of want to take another sip. So, I mean, I in a way, it was either if I didn't lose that ego or that feeling, I mean, I would have never had the year I had. But it definitely took a couple weeks of like a lot of struggling, calling my mom at night, like we're staying at the freaking La Quinta again and Quinta, and just, there's bed bugs in our room and this and that. And it's just like this is. But again, like when I stopped kind of doing that and just kind of walked through that fire head on, it was like there's definitely a lot of rewards in doing that. In baseball and sports and in life, like that's definitely that's definitely where my mind has shifted.
Yeah, that's good.
Reflecting a little bit, what was like over the entire course of your career to like this moment right now, what has been like some of the most either memorable advice or something that you've taken to heart that is just kind of transformed you into the person you have been? Like I know that like we've kind of told a lot of stories, but like is there anything that's simplified or anything that you live by right now in this moment? Like for example, mine is like slow down and let go. Or anything that like resonates with you in that manner.
Yeah, I actually kind of have a cool story, and it's someone I used to play baseball with, but it's actually, this guy's definitely not playing sports anymore, and it really isn't that cool of a story, but it was just something that like opened my eyes. And I saw this kid at Publix in my hometown. It's a kid that kind of, looked up to me in high school. He played ball with me, and he definitely, idolized me in a way. Like I remember just being older than him, and he kind of, I'd give him stuff or he'd ask me, and I saw him, and it was just such like a full circle moment. This is probably a week before I decided to actually go play, and I'm just shopping in the food aisle, and he sees me and he's like, "Yo, well, what's up, bro?" I'm like, "Dude, what's up, man? Like, how are you? Like this and that." He's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, are you you're supposed to be in Arizona, right?" And like that's like my number one thing. Like that's almost like my tick is like when it just like hits my heart, It's like, wow, like no, you're right. Like I am, like everyone thinks I'm supposed to be in Arizona, including myself and the people around me. So it's like I'm not the crazy one here, And it's kind of like one of those things where that kind of ticks me and just kind of reminds me like, yeah, dude, maybe I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And the kid, I ended up, keeping the conversation pretty short. Just, I'm on the fence about playing, and dude, the face this kid looked at me with was just like the craziest. Just like, are you nuts? Like you're debating going to work right now? And I was just like, yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at right now, And he's just like, I remember his face and just kind of his body language. And then I left, and like the whole time I was shopping, I was just like, I wanted to run out of the store and just like go run sprints and like swing and like I don't even know. It's just like the craziest thing. And I left the store, and then we started texting, and what he said to me like in the text message was like, it just like resonated with me. It was the craziest thing. He pretty much was just like, I was telling him about like the thoughts that I was getting, like kind of like the voice in my head, like what it was telling me, like maybe it's time to be done. And he pretty much just said, he's like, maybe like that voice in your head is just like the opposition. Like maybe that's just like all the stuff that's kind of been like holding you back is like, you put yourself in this negative thing, so all you're kind of hearing is like the bad guy in a way. Mm-hmm. And I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting. Like he's like, yeah, I think that's a voice trying to trick you. And I was like, huh. And that's kind of where I started to dive into religion a little more and start to kind of like open my eyes in that aspect of like, maybe this voice isn't me this whole time. I think maybe this is just like the burden that I've been holding, and maybe like the internal voice, the days that I wake up, is like the other guy just trying to like win that battle type of thing. And that stuck with me. And when I eliminated that first voice, I was set free, bro. I was at peace with myself. So that was pretty cool of him, and just that was honestly one of the more special moments that's happened to me in the past like 5 years.
I feel that.
Absolutely.
I feel that really
Absolutely.
heavy. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And let's dive into that religion, spirituality, God thing, because when we were sitting there at Primanti Bros, and we had that 2-hour conversation, and we're sitting there talking about it, and John Olson was kind of like the guy preaching it to me a little bit of like, hey, like you really get into the word, and
yeah,
I saw change in myself too, of like when I started to read and when I like had those conversations with John centered around God at the center. It's like we were talking about the thoughts we were having, or like in the things that I'm trying to avoid and whatnot, and John's message was like just put God in the middle of it, like bring him into it. And we had that conversation outside Primanti, bro. So like, how has God or religion influenced you in the past? Let's say after York, and continuing it on past, like even to date.
Absolutely, man. And that's a battle that, I mean, I still every single day I fight, and that's something that, I'm a good person. I have good intentions, but like it's just part of all those trials and tribulations. Like it makes you a little rugged, and makes you kind of have the other side of knowing kind of the dark side of life, and like how hard this shit can be sometimes. And I never, growing up, I didn't have the easiest of lives. I've dealt with, my dad passed away as a kid, and I've dealt with some things, and that never really, I always kind of use that as there's fuel to my fire, but it's like, when I have no fire to fuel, where do I go? And that's kind of where I didn't know where to go. And I can use that fire in a negative way. I can also use all these emotions, and I can be a negative, awful friend to my friends and say, poor me, wah, wah, wah. And just, I can take it out on people, which is, I just didn't want to. And I kind of saw myself doing that in a way. I was a lot snappier with my mom, my girl, just my friends in general. I just really wasn't happy with where I was at in life. And it was just like, I need someone to come save me, man. This is not who I am. Like, I'm just wearing a mask. Like, these voices that I'm hearing about, don't go play and don't do this. It's like, this is who is talking right now. Like, this is not what I know and who I am deep down. I'm a winner, man. Like, I'm a competitor. And yeah, no, and just like kind of when I just like asked God, I was just like, I wasn't doing anything crazy. I didn't go to, I didn't do anything to try to lose my ego. I was just like, I want to do this supernaturally, and I started to read a little bit and started just to kind of talk to him and just ask him for things, just strength to keep continuing just this journey, which is so crazy, man, and it's just like he really will. If you gain a relationship, it's like he put me exactly where I had to be. It was just like the craziest thing. The people I was around. I mean, not meeting, but seeing Neffer again and really meeting kind of our new selves, I would call it, and meeting John Olson and these people that were like so impactful to my life. I mean, without those guys, I don't know how last year goes. I don't even know where I am today. But, God kind of definitely put those people in my life for that particular reason for definitely the better. And definitely he knew that's exactly what I needed.
Amen to that, bro.
Yeah.
You got anything for him, Luca, or I'm gonna go off a little bit.
Well, yes, I can't help but feel. Zach and I are reading a book right now called We Who Wrestle with God, and by Jordan Peterson, and I can't help but just thinking about what Jordan Peterson talks about continually throughout this book, and basically he's making the point throughout the novel. It's like basically God himself, you can view him as a person, you can view him as something, higher than yourself, of course. But what he's basically arguing is that God is the voice in your mind that speaks to you when you're seeking what's highest. He's arguing that basically that when you put yourself in that mindset, God is the voice in the direction that's constantly putting the people in your life, but just that thing that's just kind of you can't explain, the person that's just kind of guiding you, and like those thoughts that don't really make sense, but it's just like, well, maybe this is the thing, maybe I need to follow this, and you follow, and then you end up making this connection, make that connection, and then things just kind of you start moving up the ladder.
Yeah, you build a lot of momentum. For
sure.
And
the byproduct, or not the byproduct, the starting point to just experiencing that journey is simply just I'm going to seek what's true, and
absolutely.
I can't help I don't want to just ramble, but I just can't help but think about that while I listen to what you just said, because they're basically parallel.
Absolutely.
And like on top of all of that is like the story, the presence of resilience in all three of us. And honestly, and let's dive into that, Cole. You face a lot of adversity in your life. You had that drug test where you had to sit out a full year, and I was still on social media at the time, and I saw that, and with your dad passing, and like all these like very hard, tragic things in your life, and I don't have anything that relates to that, but we've all had trauma, and we've all had that, and like,
absolutely,
and we can all speak on what it takes to be resilient. Like, what does it take for you to get back into that like confidence when your dad passes away, or you get the news you had to sit out a year and you didn't even do what they're saying you did? You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
what does it take mentally, and what's the resilience like in that aspect of it? And then we can move on to Luca too, because I know he has plenty of instances as well.
Yeah, so like for me, it goes back to kind of what I said the first day I stepped foot in rookie ball. It was I have, like when my dad passed away, I remember the emotion. Like when I got the phone call about the drug test, like that initial dagger in your heart, like that initial just Mike Tyson right hook of just like, oh, it sets in, and it's like you get that chance where it's like, it's almost like this is where you can like move mountains in the highest. Like you're just at like such a low, and it's like you're almost free rolling in life. And like by free rolling, I mean it's just like
God's with
none
you.
of my teachers think none of my teachers think I'm just going to go to school tomorrow. So like, you know what? I'm just going to go to school, and like I know God's with me, and I'm just going to walk around, and I don't want to be different anymore. Like what's happened to me has happened to me, and I'm just going to be like very honest. Like I was never a kid. Like a lot of kids would maybe hide like the fatality of a parent or this and that. And it was just like I was always open to talking about it. Like I'm not a big. I don't love holding like things just like internally so much, and like that's something I've gotten better with, is being able to talk and just, even if I don't know you that well, man, I'm just gonna tell you kind of maybe how it is, and just be like super honest. And I had to be honest with myself in these things, and it's just like I never took a steroid, I mean, I think if you know me, you might know that I'm I'm not that guy, and it's just to get that call, and it just, the whole thing was just kind of like, is someone out to get me? Is someone this and that? Or is this just part of like, maybe it just wasn't my time and maybe he's just slowing me down because maybe this could have led to something bad in the long run and I'm not even seeing his path yet and I'm not seeing these things. And you really have to trust that. And you really have two directions. I mean, you can kind of hang out in the middle for a while, but eventually you're going to pick a side, man. You can choose to be mad at life and take it out, like I was saying, or you can really go the other way with it and help people and gain momentum, like Luca was just talking about, and do these things where it's like you can get so much closer to God in these times, especially if you choose, like that book you were talking about, if you actually choose what's right and like what's pure and you start to hear that voice come in, because during these times it's almost like a challenge, you know, because that other voice is now going to be at the forefront of your mind, where it's like if you can dive into the back and find like what's really pure and true, that voice is also there. And that's the voice where like I said, during these times it's like in the beginning I maybe didn't find that voice as fast, but now it's like I know exactly where to go. Even just in day-to-day life, I know exactly where to go to get what I need to hear. So yeah, that's just like a practice in a way, and obviously the more you go through it, you get a little better at it. But you know, it's definitely a special. It's a negative thing, but it's also you learn a lot about yourself, and you learn a lot about what you're made of, and like that's definitely how I think you build your character and who you actually are.
Absolutely.
It's a special trait. Do you think that open and honesty within yourself and outwardly allowed you to move? I don't want to say move on faster, but progress faster through those tragic events?
Absolutely.
Cole, before you answer, sorry, how old were you when your dad passed?
9.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so like I was the kid showing up to travel ball with my mom holding my bats, and my mom's a freaking badass, so it was just like it made it so much easier, you know. But like just that whole thing in itself, it's like Father's Day at school, this and that. You have all these things where it's like these are all things where these little kids are all happy, and I'm just sitting there like I can't really be sad because my mom's such a badass, and my mom's cooler than all these moms. So it's like I'd rather just take my mom and me type of thing, and that's how I kind of always viewed it. That's like kind of our bond, and like she's more athletic than me, so but yeah, no, you can it's just cool. You need people in your corner, man. You got to build that. You have to have that. It just makes it so much easier during these times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I can't imagine what that was like.
Yeah, it's a little different, but it's cool.
Wow. You got anything, Zach? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm just heart goes out for guys like that, but
yeah, no doubt.
But I don't know. It just life goes. I mean, life presents you with the opportunities. I even wrote. I was it today. I was just like, I think it was in. I do a daily journal. What is it called? Like an auto. Like better every day, and it gives you. It's a prompted journal, and it was like. I wrote about like, are things meant to happen? Are things meant to happen? It was like, yeah, I think everything's meant to happen. Like God allows you to have a choice, and you can continue to like make choices and make decisions, and like obviously you have free will, but they're meant to happen because like if you don't learn from them, then it's going to repeat. Then you learn from it, and then maybe something else changes. So like you have every choice you make, every decision you make, there's an inflection point. So you get to that inflection point, and you either get to do something new or you get to do something the same. And it's like, okay, you have to have that self-awareness in order to, am I insane? Am I going to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result? Like it's that, or hey, I need to actually try something new. Like, through those experiences, like you were resilient because you were like, okay, I'm going to think about this in a different light. Like you're sitting there in emotion, but you're like, okay, like I can be sad, but like being sad doesn't do you any good. And even your personality, like when I met you in 2019 and when I met you or again in 2024, it's like at the core, I was like, man, that's Colt. We immediately, like, we're in the clubhouse, we said, hey, like, you got the high point, and it was like, absolutely. It's like old time, like, it's like old times, and then all of a sudden we get into those conversations, we're playing ping pong, we're doing this, and it's like, man, a lot's changed with him, but also a lot's changed with me, you know,
you definitely get,
and like,
yeah.
so then
Yeah,
you
so
like,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I just kind of something hit me like just I remember that day, and it's just like, for me, it's I have my life at home, which is I have my hometown buddies that I'm around all the time. So you don't really, not that you don't see yourself grow, but like I always use the baseball season as just like my hometown friends are a lot different than my quote unquote, I guess, teammates in terms of maybe lifestyle and just how they carry themselves and what they do for a living and just thought processes and stuff like that. So like I was always a big fan of it in high school. I had friends of every different type of human. I had kids that were valedictorians that I was friends with. I had kids that were, basketball players, athletes, all the way down to kids that really aren't great human beings in the world. But I learned so much through having those kind of relationships. And that's why I'm kind of like a smorgasbord of it all in terms of like, I can have a conversation with a plethora of different types of people and be comfortable because like as a kid, I was kind of always that guy. And then as I got older, when I started kind of hanging out with only really one type and maybe going home to really one type. And then like, I used to always kind of like going away for baseball because it was like that refreshing new person that maybe I can now have these conversations that maybe I want to get out, but it's just, I'm not on that kind of level with certain people to just maybe have that mature conversation. So that's like when I saw Neff this past year, it was just so refreshing to be able to like, Neff, I have a lot to talk to you about. Like I have a book's worth of like questions because I know this guy's amazing, but it's like I have a book's worth of questions and just dialogue and like I need you to hit me with like the honest truth, which you always gave me, and I just kind of want to just keep bouncing that off each other, and like from there it's like you gain so much momentum, and it was just stuff I had to get off my chest in terms of like how have you been feeling as well. Like we're both definitely different, but I feel like our journeys have kind of taken us to this place and we have like a ton in common right now. So, and we ended up having a ton in common, which is cool.
Yeah, and I was in that same boat of like I got released by the Twins and I go home for 2 or 3 days and I'm like I told myself even before I got drafted, I'll never play indie ball. I'm never doing it.
Yeah.
And I get cut by the Twins and like I don't know and people are texting you, come play here, and it's just like it's not where you and it's like but none of it is where you want to be, and it's like man, like I don't want to be there, like and then you're like okay, and then like I get on the phone with Rick, and he's super honest and forthright with me, and I'm like okay, like I'll give this a crack, like and like I'm talking to my agent a couple times. He's like, I've heard great things about Rick, great dude. And so I go to York and I don't know a soul there, and it was post TJ first, all those outings, and I was up and down on the roller coaster. I'd have a good outing, I'd have a bad outing, and then I strung a couple bad outings together. And I remember laying in the center field grass. I'm just laying there. It was a Sunday morning day game. I got there at like 7 a.m. I didn't sleep. And then I get up and I go to the bench and I'm just sitting there, and Rick comes down and we had like a 45-minute conversation. I was like, Rick, I don't know what life's about. Like I don't know if I continue to play. I don't know if I go work on the farm. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And he just sat down. He's like, if I was your dad or if I was you, like this is what I would say. And that helped me a lot. And then the next year, like I was like, okay, I'll give it one last go. And all of a sudden, like my friends were playing with me. I got John Olson. You show up. And like Valamont. And like it's like, okay, let's just go enjoy one last summer, one last go around, and whatever happens, and I'll call it a day. And that's exactly what happened. And you show up, and it's like, man, like it was just a blast from the past. And I was like, I never looked back. Like it was one of the most enjoyable summers and one of the worst ways I could like. You know, like the travel sucked, the food sucked, the stays sucked. Like there was nothing good about indie ball except the people I was around. Like I loved going to our locker room, you know, especially there, like in the middle of it when it was a grind, like, and that is it. And so that camaraderie was special.
Absolutely,
those
man.
people
I mean, I still to this day, it's like, you definitely still. I mean, I still think about it. Like, if I'm having a tough day or this and that, it's like, I remember kind of the feeling of how down I was, having to make that decision to go to ultimately getting there, and just that's kind of what I've learned about life in a way. It's like sometimes what's the hardest is just like what's right a lot of the times, and it's just you have to trust that. And it's really hard to trust that, but you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Colton,
once
you don't have to
you're
go.
there- Go ahead.
Sorry, you don't have to go too in depth, Colton. Curious time wise. So you were with the Rockies in 2022. You got released. You got picked up within like what, 2 days, 3
Yes.
days. Went to the Giants. They bring you in. Then I saw. I'm not really sure time wise with the Giants when that ended. I saw you. I believe you played winter ball in Mexico or one of those places.
I played
Was it Mexico?
winter ball in Puerto Rico. After,
Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rican
In
winter ball after
2023.
I got released in 23. Yes.
Yeah.
That
So
one,
then,
Yep.
so winter 2023, let's say ends what, January, February?
Yeah, I was out of there early January. Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of what? You were that was is that the time frame you were saying you were waiting on that
That's
call?
when
Is that
I
what
got
that's the
home
time
and
frame?
I was I straight up I got released, and my agent was like pretty much like, you can go play indie ball in 23, and I was like, absolutely not. Like, I just need a mental break from this. There's like a month and a half left, and I don't really want to play right now. I'm just not mentally here. I had a very just like an interesting
Oh, you
experience.
had the whole year. Oh, I see. You had all from
So
that
I
time
got
from
so from the time I got released in
year.
23, I had about 4 months until winter ball would have started, which I wasn't planning on playing on. I just randomly got a call and went cold turkey without picking up a bat for like 5 months. So I got released. I could have went and played indie ball, and I just mentally wasn't there. I was just kind of like wasn't really having the year that I expected coming off of shoulder surgery, and that's not my excuse. My mind wasn't there. That time off from the surgery, just the speed of the game, and honestly, the guys are just getting better, man. They're getting bigger, faster, stronger. The arms were just different. It just felt faster. It felt nastier to me, and it just I didn't have the time to take the time with the Giants. They signed me on a free agent contract. I had to go there and ball out to make a name, and I was pressing in a way. I just didn't feel like myself. I started, went from an everyday player to playing 3-4 times a week to sometimes playing 2 times a week towards the end. So it's like when I'm getting those opportunities, man, it's a lot more stacked on you, and it's just that's not how I like to play. Like I was telling you guys earlier, I like to play like a little kid. I like to kind of feel like this is my playground type of thing, and I couldn't build that throughout that year, and it just wasn't my year. It was just hitting the ball hard, but it just wasn't me. It just didn't feel right, and took a little break, and then I randomly got a call, and I went and played winter ball cold turkey. I felt amazing again. I felt like myself again. Like, I was in just such a cool environment again. It was just way out of my comfort zone, which is exactly what I needed, and it just kind of brought me back to just being a kid again and having fun and running out there and playing the game that I love and that I know and that I'm pretty good at. And I ended up having a blast. That's kind of where I was like, oh, now I'm definitely getting signed. Like, I just went out there and just did this stuff cold turkey against some decent arms, and now I'm just walking around with my chest out again just to get humbled again. Which that's kind of that's what baseball is, man. It's an uphill climb, and it's a blast, and it's so fun. It's just I'm so tired of just people and maybe even myself setting these like expectations of like, I'm just gonna follow kind of that voice in my head that we're talking about, and just kind of go day by day and stop with these just expectations or what I should have or this and that. I'm going all the way back to like the Stone Age of that.
Of just showing up to the yard and going to play.
And I'm just gonna go play, man. Yeah, I'm just gonna have like a great outlook. I'm just gonna bring everyone up around me. I'm gonna go play. That's what I'm gonna go do, type of thing. Instead of just putting all these just things on over my head before any pitch has been thrown it's just too much. It's too much nowadays for me to do that. Yeah.
So you get back from winter ball and you have like 3-4 months before you make the decision to go to.
Yeah, I had about 3.5 months where I'm expecting a phone call, and then like towards like the last month expecting no call and just having to deal with that reality of having to make this decision and actually swallow my pride and do something that I told myself as a kid I would never do, which was different. It was different. Yeah. That's also kind of something we all shared in common, though, Neff. Like we all felt that way going into it, which was neat, and that kind of made it a lot easier of a transaction.
100%. I'm searching for this quote real quick, and you're gonna love it.
Colton Weiss figuring that out. So what are you up to in the meantime? Where things
so
at
right now
I
I got my body in really good shape again, and I'm signed to go play in Mexico this spring, which I'm really excited about. So Yeah, the journey continues, man. I'm gonna keep chasing this thing. I think I can still do it. So I'm gonna go
awesome.
go play. Yeah.
All right. So this is the quote. I've told this to a lot of people I've talked to lately. Your expectancy determines outcome, and as long as you're not attached to the outcome will be guaranteed. And when you were like talking about yeah, exactly. When you were talking about the expectations, I was like,
That's
man,
exactly
I've had
what I'm
like
saying. Yeah.
I've had a lot of those conversations like recently, like, oh, I expect to go 3 for 4, or I expect to do it. It's like, well, when you let that go, then 3-4-4 happens, or I expect to do this. Well, when you let that go, all of a sudden it happens, and like that was kind of our like a lot of base of like conversations there in York was like, let go of all those expectations, and all of a sudden it comes to fruition. Like if you're out there chasing a ring, you'll never get the ring. But like we were focused on showing up every day. We were focused, like everybody was focused on getting better or doing what they needed to do, whether like, and it just everything accumulated, and we were the best team by far all year long, and we just never let up because we trusted in the process of the day to day. Like we weren't worried about getting the ring. We just knew that the ring was going to happen.
Oh yeah, no, and that's, you know, and it's cool, like along the way, something that I don't know, something that I kind of felt, which kind of for me that year that just taught me so much about even just life and just what we're kind of talking about, was when Lancaster, which was a team in our division, they loaded up their team. You know, they stacked this team with, I mean, they had a phenomenal team. And we have a great team, but I mean, talent-wise on paper, I'll keep it 100. You know, I mean, they had a lot of talent. You know, they probably had more talent than us, and you know, they kind of come into our place, whack us around in the regular season. And a couple of guys are hurt, and now I'm starting to see guys kind of not buy in. Like maybe we're not good enough. Maybe like these guys always kind of win this league and this and that. And this is the Indie Ball Championship we're talking about, but to us in the moment and just how much we like put into it, it was just like, I mean, dude, this was like a big deal, like just in all of our minds, you know. And we're just walking around like, guys, we have these guys' numbers, man. Like this is us. Like don't sway away because these guys have a couple of guys penciled in on a lineup sheet, and like what we built here is a lot stronger than any type of even talent, man. Like that it doesn't win all the time, you know, and you see it in professional sports, and just to see it like in our lives in that situation kind of come to fruition and smash them in the playoffs and kind of have these guys really buying into like just camaraderie goes a long way, man. You see it with like a lot of these teams that go on runs in the playoffs, and deep down like there's something about that. There's no one talks about it enough. Everyone wants to talk about these star players and these star running backs, and even in football, it's camaraderie and buying into like what you have, man. It's tough to beat. It's really tough, and it makes everyone play up to their standard, and it's special.
Past
their standard is what I meant to say. Just you can do things that maybe you're like, wow, I did that, you know. And yeah, I think it's not really talked about enough in sports, and I don't even think people draft or people build teams in the right way. Based on kind of that theory in a way, whereas if I was somebody, I would value that in a higher regard.
We talk about that a
podcast,
lot.
we talk about that.
Yeah,
we talk about. Yeah. I could talk about that forever.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's definitely people need to get fired nowadays is incredible. Just for
Absolutely.
that,
it's just
alone.
Absolutely.
The only thing that it's difficult to measure.
It is until you have the ability to measure it, you know. Which is like,
okay, so how do you measure it?
What's the question? How do you measure what?
That factor?
Camaraderie, glue guys, or what it is in the inside of a locker room.
I think it all starts with the top, you know. I think it starts with the manager and the people like Rick last year. I mean, Rick was very quiet, but Rick always showed the perfect amount of excitement when he could feel that the room was down, or he could. And those guys he's a special manager in that aspect. Like he had the feel of knowing what pieces to plug, who to get rid of. Even if the players didn't agree with it, it ended up in the long run being the perfect puzzle that he built. So it's like you have to recognize that, even if it's your buddy, or even, you know, if you're biased or this and that. Like good leaders start at the top, and that kind of trickles down, and it's just cool. Like, I mean, that's why, like, coaching, obviously they're not in the game, they're not playing, but like they create the culture, man, and they create, who's on the field and who's playing and this and that. So I think it starts at the top, but I mean, leading is important. You got to have a leader, whether that's, some of the players or the guy at the top. You got to have something like that. It's hard to go free for all out there.
Colt, I got to recommend it. Go ahead.
Well, Zach and I, we've spoken a lot in the past about basically like what great communication looks like and like the great communicator.
Yeah.
Like what that person does. And basically like if you want to get, not like it's everything about yourself, but if you want something in return, for example, if you're just trying to say like you want one thing singularly, it's like the best way to get that is to prove that you'll do it to the person that you wanted to get it from. So basically like if you want something, you have to be willing to show that you're willing to give it as well if you want it in return. So if you want an open environment, let's say, to give an example, like you have to be willing to create that environment by being vulnerable yourself, by being silly and goofy yourself.
Absolutely.
And everyone in turn is comfortable in doing that themselves. And if it's not coming from the top, being the skip, being whoever, like company-wise, like if it's not coming from the top, people that are subordinate won't feel comfortable doing that, because if the top's not doing it, then they feel like they're doing something wrong. So I definitely...
I mean, 100%. I mean, dude, like you can dumb it down to the point where we've all been in a ton of clubhouses. I would be willing to bet you I could walk into almost every single clubhouse within the first minute of walking around and tell you if that team's above 500 or not.
Yeah, that's true.
There's an energy in the air. There's a standard, man. It's like we just know, if you know what winning feels like, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a different
100%.
thing. And I've also know what losing feels like, and I know what that looks like. So it's like it starts there, and then like it's obviously on all the players and on us to create that. But obviously, like what you guys are talking about with the leading person, there's nothing worse than saying something and never living it or putting that in the air. That's also not going to work. So definitely you have to. I mean, the leader has to be bought in, and that's kind of, we had that this year. It was just cool.
We had that openness in the lot. Yeah, it was cool. I do have a recommendation for you. I'm in the middle or towards the end of this Nick Saban book, The Secrets of Leadership or something like that. I've highly enjoyed the book. Easy read, but something that I think you would enjoy tremendously. It's hit me at home in multiple chapters. And
absolutely.
obviously,
Saban's the man.
Obviously, he's a high elite level winner, but you should look into it because it would help as a player and as a coach or
absolutely.
A human
awesome.
being.
I love some of the stuff Saban, like even just all his Instagram reels and stuff. It's pretty. That guy's awesome. I don't know. He just has like that feel to him, where it's like even now he's doing the announcing. You just look at him and it's just like this guy's just. I don't know, something about him. Like whatever he says, I just really buy into in a way. It's just different.
Go read his book. You'll be even more bigger Saban fan. It's crazy. Like I love it. Now that I'm looking at the coaching side of life. Like I was like, okay, I want to study what the best coaches do or what elite coaches do, and I was like, no better place to start than right there. And there's been chapters I've read twice, and I'm just like, wow, like. Yeah. It's all about like discipline. Like I don't know. You should just read it, and it would be another 45 minutes before I got done talking. So.
No, I definitely hear you.
I'm just gonna stop there.
No, it's cool though. I definitely will. You have to send it to me.
Okay, I'll do that. But I think that's a good place to stop for today. But we greatly appreciate you hopping on here. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I miss you, and I hope all is well.
No doubt. No, I've been great, man. I miss you too.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Colton. It was
always,
awesome.
Good seeing you.
We didn't mention this, but we played with each other back in high school.
Bro, I remember you know Austin Burton really well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly. So I knew I grew up with Austin actually, like in our hometown when I was a kid. That was like my main guy for a long time. I remember he used to always talk about you, and then I was like, when Neff said it to me, I was like, holy shit, this is definitely like the relationship.
We played each other. What, area code, East Coast Pro? Which one was it?
It was the Perfect Game National. I want to say at Fort Myers. I want to say.
Oh wow, it wasn't even area. Oh, it wouldn't have been area code. You're not East Coast. Or you're not Northeast. Oh, that's right.
I think it was the PG National in Fort Myers.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah, it was that, for sure.
Yeah.
You were the guy that didn't miss a spot.
Yeah,
Two high school legends living it up right here, right now.
No, I was thinking the whole time it was an East Coast Pro area code thing,
I
but
think it was the
he
Nashville,
wasn't Northeast. Yeah, you're 100% right. You're 100% right.
Yeah. I think
So that means I played with him, Zach, I played with him for all of 2 days, and I still remember him. So
Yeah, we were like.
What are we talking about? What
memorable.
What makes somebody memorable? Precisely that. Open, vulnerable, honest, like fun, playful. Yeah, I mean, what do you got?
That's funny. Hey, no, but I appreciate the time, dude. You
Always, boys.
Great conversation.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And to our audience, we also thank you for joining us and supporting us and continuing to spread the word about what we're doing here. Again, we're still learning, and we got a long ways to go before we're where we want to be. But the conversations are progressing, and that's where we are. As far as Zach Neff, that's all I got. And Luca, you got anything for us?
No, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. First guest on the show, and that was everything you said Colton would be. So I had a good time.
Leave it at that. Peace, brother.
Appreciate it, brother. Peace.